Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. So I have a clip here from CNN talking about what is the approval rating of Democrats in Congress and why is it the way that it is. So let's play that real quick.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approve number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this. 77% should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C. 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply put not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low, even among Democrats with more disapproving than approving.
So this clip is pretty shocking. The numbers are pretty shocking. Obviously, the number of all voters is going to be a little skewed because what Republican is going to say the Democrats are doing well, and who knows where the independents lie. But really, the number on the right side of that chart, which is 49% of Democrats disapprove of their own party officials and 40% approve, that is quite shocking. But what I've been seeing from Republicans is a lot of times they will see these statistics and they'll throw them out there. This isn't the first time numbers like this have come out of shrinking support among the Democrat constituency. But the Republicans take that number and they say the reason that Democrat voters are no longer supporting their congressman is because they're too far left or they're being unreasonable or whatever. And that's simply not the case. What it is, as explained in the video, is that they want the Democrats to fight the Republicans, that they feel they're not being represented, that they feel the Democrats aren't standing their ground or being principled, that they're trying to compromise on things that the Democrats don't want them to compromise on. And honestly, I find that really hard to disagree with, because I don't want to compromise with the Democrats. And Republicans shouldn't want that. They ought to do the same thing as the Democrats desire to do, which is to enforce their worldview on everybody else. That's what everybody wants at this point. There's no political middle. We're very divisive, and we're combating each other from two political extremes. And the compromise isn't there. It's not even possible on a lot of these issues. You can't compromise on basically where we are politically. We're too far apart. And so what the Democrats want is, they're upset because their leaders aren't defending those ideals. They're not standing up to Republicans. So I think the Republicans have it mistaken when they think that, although there is some grain of truth that things are getting pushed further right, like the extreme left is dying out, the cancel culture, the race baiting, the gender ideology is slowly moving a little bit to the right. Overall, they still don't want to compromise with the Republicans. They still don't want like the Republican worldview to win, especially the more extreme Republican worldview that's been building over the last couple of years. And I can't disagree with them on that. You know, I think they're wrong, but their approach of we don't want to compromise, I don't want to compromise with them either. So I can't really judge them for that. Going forward, though, these politicians, I think, are going to have to actually stand their ground, it seems. And ultimately, we're coming to a point where there's going to be a big fight about which side completely dominates the other. So long are the days of honor and political fairness and whatever. Like it's all about the games, the stratagems. It's all about who can wield power more effectively in a tricky and subversive way. and who's going to win outright and completely dominate the other side and enforce their worldview on the other side. That's where we're headed in America. We're not anywhere close to coming together and unifying. As much as politicians try to say that, both Biden and Trump have both said that, and it's clearly not going to happen. They're not going to be able to make it happen, even if they wanted to, which I don't believe either of them actually want to, or did want to. So I don't know. It's interesting though that the lack of support is because they're not going hard enough. They're not being tough enough. And we've also seen this over the last couple of years with the Republicans too. Is like that's the reason all the neocons are getting voted out of office is because they didn't do anything. Yeah, they were compromising all the time, but how does that help us at all? Really? Like, why are you compromising on things that you shouldn't be? And why compromise at all? If I completely disagree with the other side's worldview, like this is not a compromise of like taxes, right? Like, oh, 15%, 16%, oh, we'll meet in the middle, 15 and a half. It's nothing like that. It's not numerical things that we're compromising on. It's stuff like the gender ideology, human rights when it comes to things like abortion or equity or whatever, all these major ideological issues, the thought of relativism versus actually believing in a deity and having that deity be at the center of your politics and all that sort of stuff is coming to light. Those are the major issues now. It's less so about policy. It's less so about things like war and taxes. It's more so about just inherent worldview, like how you see the world. And I cannot compromise on that. As a Christian, my worldview is that there's a God. Our morality is based on that, and our politics comes from our morality. And so in no way can I compromise with Democrats or the far left who believe that there is no God, everything is relative, human beings are completely malleable. They're basically economic units to be shifted and moved however they want. Culture doesn't really matter. It's not inherent. There's no inherent value to the human person. All that sort of stuff. Hard for me to compromise on. You can't really compromise on that. And so if I can say, hey, I think my worldview is correct and right, and therefore we're going to go with that one, and the left does the exact same thing, you can't really sit there and say, oh, well, you can't do that because that would be incredibly hypocritical. I definitely see where they're coming from, and I definitely see why they're upset. I think a lot of Republicans don't see that, which is quite silly, is they don't understand that Democrats want to fight in the same way that Republicans want to fight, and they want to enforce their worldview in the same way Republicans want to enforce their worldview. But you can see why that's never going to align. And any policies that do coincidentally align is nothing more than a coincidence. If I structurally believe that the world, like there is a God, and you believe there isn't, everything about our morality and philosophy is completely different. And anything that does line up, like we all agree on one thing or another, is merely coincidental. It has nothing to do with the building up of values and levels of thought that lead to the policy, which is basically just like the policy and the law is a reflection of what people internally want, because the laws are created to protect the liberties and the rights and the freedoms and the beliefs of the people there. Okay, well, so what's important is the beliefs that cause those laws to exist. And since we can't agree on those beliefs at all, there's no sense in trying to cooperate and make laws that apply to both groups of people, because it's not possible. You're trying to make something a square and a circle at the same time. Like God exists, God doesn't exist at the same time, and the laws work the same way, and it doesn't work that way. And that's one of the reasons why everything's getting so shenaniganry is any thought that lines up together is coincidental, and the same thing with any procedure that works. So this is just not totally surprising to me. I knew the numbers were going down, but it's a little surprising to me how the fact that the main culprit behind people's ire towards their politicians is that they're not doing enough. They're not going far enough. And that's not a good sign for any sort of unity or the future of the country as a stable, unified unit. It's not really good news overall, because it's the same thing with the Republicans. They want their politicians to dominate the other side and to go even harder and whatnot. And so when both sides want that, when the people want that, they will remove the politicians who are standing in their way, who are trying to compromise, who are trying to, calm the fires a bit. They're just going to get thrown out of office because the emotions of the people are at such a boiling point. And it would be silly to say that that's not just, like, that's not rightfully so, that people are at a boiling point, because the two different worldviews have been acknowledged to be incompatible. And going forward, there's no way to make them compatible. It's not possible. So we have acknowledged that, and now the question is, what do you do? Well, ultimately, one side's going to have to dominate the other. So we'll see over the next coming years what happens with that. Trump won, which is a good sign that the Republican conservative side is winning, but we'll just have to see what happens, because this is not, since it's not only like a policy thing, it's an ideology thing. You can look at the entire West for the ideology and where it's going, and that is still yet to be seen. Some countries in the Eurosphere, like Poland, getting more conservative. Some countries like England getting more liberal. We just don't know where this path is going to lead, but it's very clear that there is a growing divisiveness, especially among younger generations, where they have basically zero respect for the other side. There's no boomer sort of like, oh, let bygones be bygones, like let people do whatever they want, as long as it doesn't hurt me. And even if you were to go with that line of logic, most people in the younger generation would say what the other side is doing and wants to do, politically, legally, ideologically, is going to hurt me. And that's almost undeniable, right? We're talking about taking away people's rights, like rights, whatever the other side determines as their rights, from the other side, pretty like unilaterally, whether that's taking away the rights to abortion, whether that's taking away the rights to be openly religious, whatever those rights are. Both sides are talking about taking away rights from the other people. So there's no hope in reconciling that or having like mutual ground. So we'll see what happens. We'll look to the rest of the West to see what they do, because I think Europe is a lot more explosive than we are. I think the tensions are a lot higher there than they are here. Interestingly enough, like the tensions here are very high, but in terms of like actual action that comes from it, we're still in the process of doing legal shenanigans. We're over there. It's starting to get a little bit crazier. So we'll see what happens there. We'll look to the West, and we will also see what happens going forward with our own Congress, with our own elected officials. The next coming elections will kind of be a telltale sign of which direction the country is headed. But after there is going to be conflict both within the parties about these issues, about people who want to be conservative in like a political sense and kind of maintain their party and do tradition and do, honor and debate and compromise, and those who are very much progressive and pushing their ideologies and saying, no longer will we cooperate with the other side, no longer will we be benevolent, no longer will we roll over or even allow them to do the things that they want to do because we see those as evil. That can apply to both sides, that statement. So we'll just have to see. It's very interesting times we live in. It's very good to pay attention to politics because this stuff is moving so fast, like very ideologically fast. And that leads to very severe happenings eventually, very interesting things that come about when people are starting to change their belief systems and their way of thinking so rapidly. So if you're interested in that, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And thank you for watching.